watching News 24 Live. Welcome to our Thursday Super Rugby preview and prediction show. Today we are looking ahead to round 16 with our rugby panel from Sport 24 editor Garen Lamley and chief rugby writer Rob Howing. Gents, good afternoon.
Hi, Nick.
Almost we are at the business end. Very close. How many? 3 rounds left till the playoffs, chaps. And we've got some crackers this weekend. A lot of them tough to call, as you brought up earlier, Rob. So I'm going to start with you. Crusaders hosting the Hurricanes first up on Friday morning. It's a massive Kiwi derby, and I suppose sort of last chance saloon for the Crusaders, who are in danger of not making the playoffs in I don't know how long.
Yes, absolutely. That was what got me worried about this fixture. I mean, if you look at it from a log basis point of view, it should be virtually no contest. A Crusaders team that is pretty disappointing this year, quite frankly, apart from a few really rousing performances every now and then, versus a Hurricanes team who have just been, driving home their advantage week after week, runaway lead at the top. The only thing that makes me think the Crusaders have a fighting chance, apart from the obvious home advantage situation, is the fact that they've obviously, as you say, desperation is a key driver. They are scrapping to. I think if they lose this one, they are gone. They know that they have to just win in the last few weeks to make the cut with an outside chance. The Hurricanes worry me a little bit in the sense that they're so far ahead that there may be a little sense of complacency, that they almost may be thinking, we can rest on our laurels, maybe just mentally a little bit in this one. But then again, they can officially make sure they finish first, I think, if they win this one. Then there's absolutely no chance of even one of those, we know that the South African or New Zealand Australian sides can't catch them anymore anyway. But there are some New Zealand teams technically still within reach. But they can put that to bed in this game. So I'm going that way. After a bit of consideration, I'm going for the away win. Narrow margin.
Okay. Crusaders, Garen, I see Dan Carter playing only his 3rd game at fly half for the Crusaders. He's obviously been in the midfield. But a lot of the All Blacks in the Crusaders side dogged with injury, which hasn't helped them either.
Yeah, it's one of those strange.
They certainly haven't helped my Super Brew campaign in Crusaders.
Yeah, and it's one of those strange situations where they've picked up injuries, but at the same time, those that have been calling for rest aren't that upset. The Crusaders are pretty much out of it. Like Rob correctly said, they have to win every single match from year on in. It's pretty much playoff rugby for them now. Every match is a final. They can't afford to lose one. And even if they do win every single game, there's still not a guaranteed spot for them in the playoffs. Colin Stade, he's been playing the fly-off more often than not this season. He's injured, so Carter has to move to number 10. They've got a number of injuries. Kieran Reeds, he's got a concussion knock, I believe. He's suffered from that in the past a number of times, so he's out for the match. They are going to be more desperate than the Hurricanes. I'm actually quite surprised the Hurricanes have picked such a strong team. They only need, I think, 3 points to officially finish number 1, and that's also then assuming they lose the next 2 games and the Chiefs or the Highlanders, who actually play each other this weekend. So one of them is not going to finish top, that they then pick up 5 points in their remaining matches. So I thought the Hurricanes will actually pick a weaker side, rest some of their players, because they're guaranteed then to go into the playoffs, and not worry so much about picking up those 3 points now and then banking them and then worrying about their meaningless remaining 2 matches. So again, if you're looking for a prediction, I'm actually going to lean towards the Crusaders a little bit, because I don't think the Hurricanes have to win, and I think even if they pick up 1 or 2 points, that should still be enough. So but the Crusaders, like you say, have packed with All Blacks, underperformed this season. Biggest disappointments for me in this tournament. They're 4th in the New Zealand Conference. When last did we see that? But they're still going to be in the top half of the table, which obviously doesn't say much for the South African teams.
Rob, 3 games on Friday. It's the first time we've had a night game for a while. So yes, the next 2 games on Friday involve South African sides. We've got the Brumbies up against hosting the Bulls at 11:40, and then yes, the 7 p.m. kickoff, SA time, Sharks hosting the Rebels. The Sharks back from not the best overseas tour.
Yeah, I think for that game, I'd be looking at a home win. I think the Sharks, they are fighting hard. They are clearly wanting to sort of show a little bit of pride in the jersey over the last few weeks of the season. I think that win against the Reds was quite a tonic to them. It meant that they staved off the sort of a whitewash on tour. And I see no reason why they shouldn't get another Australian scalp in the space of virtually a week. I think they might just edge that one. It may not be the prettiest game of rugby you'll see. The Rebels are still with a very, very outside chance, a little bit like the Crusaders really, of trying to make the cut. I think pretty much their goose is cooked. It probably happened at Newlands last week. When they made some very daft errors, and will be kicking themselves in some respects for allowing that game probably to be the one that saw them finally fall off the radar.
Yeah.
So I think I'd be going Sharks there. The other one I'm not as confident about at all. The Bulls,
the Bulls have made quite a few changes.
Lots of changes. 9 losses overseas on the trot. When you then go to Canberra to play the Brumbies, I'm afraid you have to think there's a 10th one there for the taking. The Brumbies, knowing that the Bulls are fragile on the road, that they're fragile on this tour, full stop, after being very disappointing, I thought, in New Zealand. They just looked so sort of ragged and sort of unstructured. A lot of their systems that Frans Ludeker normally prides himself on didn't actually work very well. Now for this one, Victor Matfield is sitting out, so Grant Hutton comes back in the mix. Useful player, obviously, but not quite with Matfield's aura. Difficult to see how the Bulls can do it. It'll require a real blood and guts and, above all, intelligent performance, which we haven't seen too many of from the Bulls, and to be able to win there. Normally a graveyard for South African teams, so I'm afraid it's still going to be bad news, I suspect, from a South African point of view in that game.
Talk about team changes for the Sharks, Kankowski and possibly Willem Alberts back for the Sharks. Garen, quick prediction from you for that fixture and the earlier one between the Brumbies and Bulls.
I'm going to agree with Rob in both those games. I can't see the Bulls winning in Canberra. Only one team ever wins in Canberra, and that's the Brumbies. So they're going to go back to the top of the Australian Conference before the Waratahs play. And then the Sharks should be good enough in Durban, even though we've seen them underperform at home in the past. The Rebels, I think, were deserved losers against the Stormers, but I think the scoreline flattered the Stormers somewhat. I think they'll be fairly competitive. Frans Steyn out for the Sharks again. He's torn a pectoral muscle. That's a big blow for them. Kankowski, he's much of a muchness for me. There are players as good as him, I think, that have played this season for the Sharks. So it's going to be a tough game for them. They're coming off a poor tour, as you said. It'd be great for them to be back in front of their faithful at Kings Park. But I think they're going to grind out a victory. It's a pretty ugly match to watch for those that do sit through the 2 hours on Friday evening. But I'm going to go for the Sharks by 5 or 6.